Oh, bring it on in for a special 3-wide edition of Picks and Roll / the Daily Ticket. Still out of studio all week, but we are running 3-wide. And of course, we got two of the best brains covering all things hoops in the business. Sam Ostry made it home from MSG last night late. Good to see you, Sam. Of course, he represents the squad over at The Score. We got Sean Bernard from DraftKings Sportsbook, of course, covers the Sixers and the association for us here on The Gambler. A lot to get to. And I will open up by saying this. I'll make it about myself, as I often do. I cannot believe what happened last night. I pride myself on staying up and making these late night games. Now I will fully admit that in the last year or so, it's been a little bit more time and time of I've been falling asleep and just been like, if I miss it, I miss it. But these are the moments. These are the games. This is what we do. Like, I love this stuff. And I just didn't see it happening. And shame on me for at 10:15 p.m., I texted both Sam and Sean game.
With
they were
8 minutes left in the game.
All right. Come on, man. The Knicks were balling. They were up by 14. They're up by 14.
Yeah, I think I responded and said
you did
the game is far from over.
Far from over. I don't know. I guess maybe the droopy eyes were talking a little bit too as well. Look, I like it just starts and ends with this stat, and I hate to put it out there and make it so simple because it really wasn't. There was so much that went into what took place. But boys, what we witnessed last night was the biggest choke job in NBA playoff history. They've been playing this game for a long damn time, and it's the first time that over 1,400 times a team was down 9+ in the final minute of fourth quarter / overtime, and the Pacers came back to win. It's never happened before in NBA playoff history. And then there it was last night at MSG. Halliburton gets the ball, flies up, decides to take it back out, shoots it, clank, and happens to fall through the rim. Like, that's when you know it's just not going to happen from a Knicks fan's perspective.
Shooter's
what
touch.
A game. Yeah, shooter's touch.
Yeah.
What a game. What a comeback. And that didn't even win it because then it went to overtime and they had every chance to do it there. We'll save you, Sean. Sam, I want to get your thoughts on this because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure you could come back from something like that.
Look, the Knicks have shown resiliency throughout this playoffs. Like, and this group has the identity like of a resilient basketball team. They just
so do the Pacers,
Josh Hart, and that's the problem. Yeah, so do the Pacers. So do the Pacers. But the series is far from over after one game. I had to go in 7. It does feel like that's a hard one to flush. I mean, you flush it, you watch the film, you move on. That's a hard one to flush because you can call it a comeback and call it a collapse. I lean more towards the collapse, even though it's such a great, like a shooting stretch from Aaron Nesmith, who really won the Pacers that game in regulation. It's still like everything. It was an avalanche of what could go wrong, went wrong for the Knicks in the final couple minutes. From the Aaron Nesmith threes, where some really poor defensive coverages on those, where they weren't getting out on those switches, and he was red hot, but they were somewhat open. And he doesn't shoot a lot off the dribble either, but he was making them off the dribble. Between the bobble, the Jalen Brunson throws it to OG Anunoby underneath the rim, and OG Anunoby bobbles the ball. It would have been, if he just catches it regularly, it would have been an easy layup. Game's probably over there. He bobbles it. That's when the Pascal Siakam touched his hand. It becomes a review, and Pacers challenge, and Pacers get the ball. Karl-Anthony Towns is an 82% free throw shooter on the season. He misses a free throw. Game's different if that doesn't happen. OG Anunoby is an 81% free throw shooter on the season. He misses a free throw. Game's very different if that doesn't happen, because actually OG's miss came right before Halliburton's shot. So imagine if the Pacers were down 3, Halliburton shoots that shot to force overtime, but his foot's on the line. They end up losing by 1. So there's a lot of what ifs, but it was just an avalanche of everything that could go wrong, went wrong for the Knicks, and they got a lot to clean up. But they're 5.5-point favorites for game 2, and I expect them to even the series out.
Wow. Yeah, and to Sam, one thing on Nesmith, he is a 40+% shooter.
Oh yeah,
from downtown, and they pointed it out. And again, it's not something that I was watching clearly at live, but on the replay, and especially this morning, just catching everybody breaking it down. you have to question like what was going on as far as some of those defensive pursuits and going under screens and just allowing him to get open and having a little bit of a 2 to 3 feet a buffer.
He's shooting
in front of
54% from three in the playoffs. That
Maybe
is
guard
a
him.
ridiculous number. And once he hits a couple in the fourth quarter, it's like, all right, this guy is red hot. And there was a bunch of times, and I tweeted some of these clips where OG Anunoby is just he's not switching. When Brunson's not in action, they're switching those screens. He was just late on the switch and he was way too much in drop. And then he just comes off these screens for threes. And it's just like, how are you not selling out on this guy to take away his 3-pointers? And again, he's not a good dribble a shooter off the dribble. Like, that's not his specialty. He's more of a catch and shoot guy throughout the season, but he just was drilling shots off the dribble, and it was an incredible shooting display. He deserves all the credit in the world.
It really was his night. And of course, Halliburton is the guy that stirs the drink. He's the straw, 31 points. And, I still go back to think about what the players said about him, overrated, and what he's continuing to do back-to-back seasons. And, oh, by the way, Sean Bernard, it's great to see that tweet pop up from back in the day a few years ago when there was a package on the table from the Pacers to the Sixers. And they wanted no part of it. Again, that is a heck of a revisionist history looking back on that. No doubt about it. But still fun to look at that tweet in that manner. Yeah, anyways, Sean Bernard, your thoughts on last night? Forget the Sixers.
I'll put that away. But yeah, to speak about what happened last night, is the most clutch player in the NBA played basketball last night, and his name is Tyrese Halliburton. Wow. That a guy that is for 11 for 12 in go-ahead or game-tying shots with less than 30 seconds left to play this year. That's 92% for those you mathers out there. Shout out to the tush push there. Everyone calling him the most overrated. Everyone says they're better than Tyrese Halliburton until it's time to be better than Tyrese Halliburton. He went into Madison Square Garden, absolutely picked apart that Knicks defense last night from a scoring perspective, from a playmaking perspective. He was at the heart of everything the Pacers did. And for this Pacers team as a whole, for all these characteristics that we want to throw on this Knicks team, that they grind, they're going to compete, they're never going to quit. The Pacers have all these same exact qualities, and they've shown this throughout this playoff run. They have more impressive comeback performances, with last night being right at the top of that list there. That was a statement win by that Pacers team, and that is something that is going to be difficult for this Knicks team to pick themselves off the map. So give Tyrese Halliburton his flowers and take this Pacers team seriously.
No, and I said it when I was breaking down the series, a couple on Monday or whatever it was, and I'm like, man, everything I'm saying about the Knicks, you could say about the Pacers. And I'll just push back on you. Come on, man. 20 points to the Celtics multiple times.
14 points in 2 minutes last night.
No doubt about it. I like, if you're asking me to rank them, I'd put the Pacers above all.
That's what I'm saying.
But what the Knicks did against the Celtics in both of those games where they came back 20 plus points down. I mean, come on, that was incredible. But again, last night is last night. It's on to the new series. Both of these teams deserve to be in this spot. It was just, the big question for me right now is like, I just put it in my wheelhouse, in my backyard, and bringing the Sixers up back again. If they ever did that in a game one, like, I don't know how you bounce back. I just don't. And it is a long series, Sam. You're right. So, like, these guys are professionals. Would it shock us if they go out there and the Knicks win by 5-6 points? This Pacers team is so gritty, so tough. It's going to be tough to put them away.
And this isn't their first comeback. Like, this is their most improbable, sure. But they did this last series against the Cavs when they were down 7 with 34 seconds to go. And then they did it again in the first series against the Bucks when they were down 7 with like 40 something seconds to go. Like this, I don't know what it is, like some voodoo magic. Like there's something about this Pacers team where they force teams to completely collapse and act like they've never played basketball before. And the other team's late game execution just becomes all jumbled. And I don't know what it is, but there's something, it's resiliency for sure on the Pacers end. Like even there was a moment, I was rewatching the game this morning. There was a moment where Tyrese Halliburton hit a shot and it cut the lead to like 14. And the Knicks still led by 14 with over 2 minutes to go, maybe around 3 minutes to go. And Halliburton is celebrating. Like he's doing some like celebration on his way back on defense. Like nobody does that. Like that is insane arrogance, insane cockiness, and a big reason why a lot of people don't like him. But at this point, you have to respect it. Like who celebrates down 14 with 2 minutes left? They didn't think for a second they were out of that game. And it's just all the reps of them coming back late in these games and forcing other teams to collapse. I don't get it what it is, but there's like I really don't have an explanation for it. But it's really impressive. And look, if they make this team might just be a team of destiny that's going to make the finals because of all these incredible comebacks late. But it's shocking to watch live.
And by the way, during that comeback there, like the Knicks were still scoring. Like this was not a situation where like you completely cut them off defensively where the Knicks couldn't figure things out. They were still getting buckets and scoring, and the Pacers just would not roll over, hitting more threes. Aaron Naismith continuing to pop off. One of like arguably the hottest any basketball player has ever been when you think about how many of those shots were in such like a short period of time there. And I also don't want it to fly under the radar here that Mr. Captain Clutch himself, Jalen Brunson, had a chance to tie this game here.
Yes, he did.
Open 3-point look, that air ball that would have tied.
I mean, open is a stretch. He created a little bit of space. It was definitely a contested 3-point.
Cat was open.
Cat was a better look.
Cat was barely kissing the rim there. So for the
they're tired legs. They're playing 50+ minutes. Some tired legs are.
Maybe if their head coach gave them 10 minutes off once in a while, that their legs wouldn't be so heavy right now.
Well, here's the thing about that. Brunson got an extended rest because he got his 5th foul with 10 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. And that's when it was like, all right, this is a time the Pacers can come back because the Knicks have a little bit of a lead. The opposite happened. The Knicks exploded for a 14-0 run after Brunson went out with his 5th foul. And it was like, okay, we're gaining this lead. We can let Brunson sit a little bit, let him get a little more rest before we have to put him in, risking a 6th foul. And then he comes back in, and then things kind of start to fall apart for the Knicks. And look, Brunson, he was 43 points he finished with. He was phenomenal for like 46, 47 minutes. He wasn't good in overtime. He only had 1 field goal in overtime. He had 2 turnovers in overtime. He also the Knicks got lucky where there was a play where Brunson was doubled on the inbound and he was caught in this trap. And he tried to throw it off their leg, and it just completely missed. And the ball went soaring up in the air. The Knicks are lucky they got that loose ball. And then even Brunson's 5th foul was just a dumb foul, just like give up the easy bucket. So it wasn't Brunson's best 4th quarter and overtime period. It's not a question about who's more clutch. I would say like Brunson has to do more for his team to win. Halliburton and the Pacers. Halliburton was awesome. I'm not taking anything from Halliburton. Pacers won that game because of Aaron Nesmith. He made 6 threes in that final 5 minutes. He made 3 threes in the final minute. If he doesn't make one of those threes, the Knicks are winning this game. So this was an Aaron Nesmith game. Yeah, Halliburton had the shot, which was just wasn't quite Kawhi level, but it was second to Kawhi in terms of just bouncing up the rim. And some of the reaction videos are hilarious when all these Knicks fans, they're watching that shot and it bounces in the back iron and it goes up in the top of the air to the shot clock. And everyone just thinks it's the Knicks won. It's a miss. And then it just swooshes right in somehow. And these Knicks fans are heartbroken. But look, Halliburton deserves credit for all that. But this was an Aaron Nesmith. He was the reason why they won this game.
No doubt about it. He scored 20 points in less than 5 minutes. I think he tied the NBA playoff record for most 3-pointers in a quarter at 6. Sean, I'm going to come to you on this because I always find it interesting. Like, what were we saying leading into this game? And I know it kind of all goes out the window with how it transpired. To Sam's point, and Sean and I were talking about this before, Sam, a little all over the place. I apologize, but I agree. If one of those shots don't fall, they don't win. If what we were talking about with the foul underneath, the ball gets popped up. If Carlisle doesn't have that challenge, the Knicks win.
Yeah.
If a free throw is made, if OG makes both of them, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, but putting that to the side, Sean, the question I have for you is going into this series, what we were saying about the strengths and weaknesses for both teams, because I hear what Sam is saying, and I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. But this team is so deep. Like Nembhard went and had a great overtime. Siakam played his ass off. Like this Pacers squad is deep, and I think they're the better team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like that's kind of been my takeaway for the series is the top end of this Knicks team is better. Like we're not arguing that.
Yes.
The Jalen Brunson, the Karl Anthony Towns, even OG, if you want to throw Bridges in that conversation, those guys are the best players here. But when you look beyond that, like I believe the Pacers went 10 or 11 deep last night when looking at their sub pattern and 10 deep. Yeah, they went, and that's going to be a regular occurrence for them.
Who's the 10th player? Who's the 10th man?
My guy Ben Shepherd.
He got legitimate reps on Brunson.
Wow.
And he was like an impact player in last year's playoff in this series against the Knicks. Like he played well in this. So like I think there's going to be a little bit of a war of attrition in this series, and like that's been the concern with this Knicks team. If one of these top end guys go down, I do think it completely unravels here, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, like we still got plenty of time to get to that. But when watching last night, like I have a whole tweet saved in my drafts of like this was a huge missed opportunity by this Pacers team. Like this is how game was there for the taking. Brunson was in foul trouble. The Knicks gave you chances, and lo and behold, they found a way to get the job done. So I was glad I waited till about the 2-minute mark before hitting send on that one.
The optimistic approach. The optimistic outlook for the Knicks is that they outplayed the Pacers for 47 minutes. I mean, it was obvious who the better team was on the floor, and it was the Knicks. And so that's the optimistic outlook. The pessimistic outlook is they outplayed the Pacers, and they still lost the game and are now trailing 0-1 in the series.
I also would push back at that because I think the Pacers, they played at their pace the entire game. And even the broadcast was pretty heavily talking about that throughout. Like, if the Knicks are going to win this, you got to slow it down. You can't run with these guys. It's going to have to be half-court style of matchups. They kind of ran all night last night. I mean, the final score, it was 138-135. That's a Pacers game.
Yes, theoretically, but I actually think the Knicks can keep up offensively. Like what the Pacers pick up full court, and their advantage is their depth for sure. And what we talked about before this series was that I didn't want to see Brunson bring the ball up the court because it's just wasted pressure and he needs some relief. I thought Mikal Bridges was going to get some reps at point guard bringing up the court, and it ended up being Josh Hart who was doing a ton. And I thought that was a smart play. It was like, put Brunson off the ball, don't let him waste all his energy, bring the ball up the court. And they did that with Hart a lot. But look, here's the thing that we saw. You put Bennedict Mathurin on Brunson. You put Andrew Nembhard on Brunson. You put Aaron Naismith on Brunson. They tried TJ McConnell on Brunson. They tried Ben Shepherd on Brunson. He destroyed all of them. None of them had a chance against him. He was so dominant for really the first three quarters, you could say. And yeah, fatigue probably wore in. Most games aren't going to go to overtime, but those guys had no answer for Brunson. So I think the Knicks actually can keep up with their pace. For me, this series is going to come down to who can actually get defensive stops. And to me, the adjustment is playing Mitchell Robinson more and Miles McBride more, because those lineups for the Knicks are way better defensively when those two guys are in. But it's going to come down to who can get more defensive stops.
Yeah, you're right. And that's generally how it plays out, especially when you get two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals that are pretty much even across the board. Looking at the box score, is there anything glaring to you? Because I would believe that the one thing that maybe people that haven't paid attention all that much is like we discussed with Karl-Anthony Towns going for 35, Brunson goes for 43, and you still came up with the loss, I just, again, it's on to the next one. It's real easy for us to say that. Players, fans, I get it, but man, not players, excuse me, but fans, one thing, but the players to be out there on that floor after losing game one, the way that they did in front of Celebrity Row, gotta love it. I got to give a shout out to Matt. He's a diehard. He came in and said, Bernard has been waiting 2 weeks to get this hate off. I'll let him enjoy it while it lasts.
Can we put the comment up where he said, shout out Matt, where he said Sean actually thought Detroit was the better basketball team too?
He did say that. Yes. Yeah. Sean did that. And you know what? I kind of was there for a second with my just bias, my hate. But the Knicks proved that they're the real deal. And what they did against the Celtics was no fluke. And here we are right now. It was a great game. Just a crazy result, a choke job by the Knicks. And we'll see what happens as far as game two. We'll get into those numbers. But again, just staying with game one and how great it was. And it's just what you pointed out, Sam. We don't know exactly how it plays out for the Pacers, but this is something that they've now done 3 times. We're talking over 99.7% chance to win game one. The Knicks had, the Pacers ended up winning that. Celtics, 98.3% chance in game one. They won that game. And then the Pacers game one in last year's Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. I forgot about that one. 99.8% chance. And they came back to win that game. So it's just something about that team, the mental makeup, Carlisle, of course, the players making shots that they're putting it together, Sean.
Yeah, they 100% are. And I kind of want to stick on the Jalen Brunson point for a second here. For starters, I thought Aaron Naismith was very good on him defensively, that I did think he made an impact there. We got 7 turnovers from Jalen Brunson last night, which is a lot and should have been more for 2 specific, very uncharacteristic decision-making process with him that should have been costly turnovers. The one that you mentioned where he was kind of falling out of bounds, where he tried to spike it off the Pacers, it was there for the taking and it managed to fall into safe New York arms and they kept it. That could have very well cost them the game there. There was another one with about 20 seconds left in that game where it was an out of bounds inbounds. It ended up going to Josh Hart ended up getting there, but Hart kind of slipped on the inbounds there. I thought that was going to be a straight up pick 6 that would have tied the game at that point. And then again, all that the messaging is from a Knicks perspective is just get it to a close game and give Jalen Brunson the keys at the end. That's how things went down last night, man. And he was unable to outplay Halliburton in the stretch there. That when we're talking about the crunch time of that game, yes, Naismith hit shots, but Jalen Brunson had every opportunity to be Mr. Captain Clutch, to win this game, to put the team on his shoulders, and he just didn't do it last night. I thought he was bothered by this Pacers defense in a way that I really didn't see from him in the opening 2 rounds.
I didn't think he was bothered by defense. I'll definitely give you that he struggled late in that game. Like, this wasn't Captain Clutch that everyone calls him. That wasn't him yesterday. He just didn't show up, especially in the overtime period. And he had a couple turnovers there that I thought were bad. And that's when the fatigue set in for me. But it was interesting because he actually got an extended rest in the fourth quarter because of those 5,000, because the Knicks went on a run without him. So it was kind of surprised why he was fatigued. I don't know what was going on. I'm not going to look at one game. The guy who's leading the playoffs in fourth quarter points by a mile, leading the playoffs in clutch points by a mile. The guy who's hit big shot after big shot after big shot throughout his career. I'm not going to question that for a second. He didn't have it yesterday. Halliburton outplayed him down the stretch. But again, it was really Aaron Naismith that outplayed every single player on the floor in those final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. So, I'm not really concerned about Brunson, assuming he's healthy and he's good to go. But I agree that he definitely struggled late in the game. But I didn't think it was the defense at all, because Ben Shepherd was honestly mostly guarding him late in that game. I thought that he was really just getting any looks he wanted. What I did think he was bothered by was doubles. They weren't throwing doubles his way until the very end, and they were blitzing a lot of those screens. I did not think he did a good job navigating that at all. But straight up, when they were just guarding him straight up with any one of those guys throughout the game, I didn't think he had trouble at all.
Well, I do know this much. We made a huge deal. Everybody made a huge deal about the defense from Oklahoma City when they forced 17 turnovers in that game 1, against Minnesota, and rightfully so. Knicks had 15 last night. And if they're going to turn the ball over like that to the Pacers 7, that's tough sledding, man. And especially with a gritty team like that, it's probably going to come back and bite you. We'll see. Sam, is there anything there? Like I said, I love when we talk about, when we break this game down, this series down, every which way leading up. And then we get a game, and it's tough because of how the game ended for anything to really play out like we thought, and, or we thrown everything out the window, how we thought this series would go. But what is something that you thought would take place in this matchup, albeit one game, that you saw last night actually taking place on the floor?
It's really the depth thing to me, where it's like you have to take advantage of opportunities where you don't get a lot of bench production. You did from Miles McBride and Mitchell Robinson, but you didn't from Cam Payne at all. Like, you have to take it if you're still going to have a big lead late in the game when you don't have a lot of bench production. You're only going 7, maybe 8 deep when the Pacers are going 10 deep. You have to take advantage of that. And I was surprised the Knicks didn't. And that's why I'm a little concerned, because they had this game where their bench, maybe not the numbers necessarily, but their bench, the Knicks' bench, was better than the Pacers' bench because of the impact of Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride. And they still couldn't take advantage of it. And you're not going to get that every game. So that's why this is a little concerning for me from the Knicks perspective. Look, I think the series is going to go 7. That's what I said in the beginning. I'm not changing that from my prediction of Knicks in 7. But the Pacers definitely showed in a game where they were outplayed. If you get this game late, and that, like Sean said earlier, the whole formula for the Knicks was get a game into crunch time, and the Knicks will take care of it. That was against the Celtics. The Celtics are a really bad crunch time offense. Against the Pacers, a resilient group like the Pacers, it's complete toss-up who's going to be the better team in the clutch.
It's funny, too, Sean, because I was watching Alan Hahn, who does all things New York. He's Mr. New York radio and on Get Up. And he kind of snapped at Jay Will which I'm fine with. Nobody likes Jay Williams, but like this was before the series even started. And it was like, oh, if it's a close game, that's playing right into the Knicks' hands. And it's just like, wait a minute. Yeah, I understand it, but everything you're saying about the Knicks, you could absolutely say about what we've seen so far from the Pacers. So it's like, I kind of thought it was a wash at the end, but I gave the advantage to the Knicks with the home court. I didn't like giving 4.5 yesterday. I can't believe that, guys. This stat. How about this one? 31 points in the final 13 possessions. How does the math on that? How do you get 31 points in 13 possessions?
Aaron Nesmith going bananas.
Yeah, some tough shots too. Like these were not just wide open 3-point looks. These were off motion, off movement, off the dribble. He did it in every which way here, pulling up from deep here. And like with all this, like Naismith deserves an incredible amount of like credit for this. The Knicks didn't defend it well either. Like Josh Hart was slipping, OG was going under screens. There were self-inflicted issues by this Knicks team. And by the way, shout out Cam Payne for no matter how poor he is shooting or how poor he is playing, he hits one shot and that man is celebrating like he just won the NBA championship right there. So I will always appreciate that from Cam Payne, but do agree with Matt's sentiment that it probably is in the Knicks' best interest for him not to be a part of this series whatsoever moving forward. But as far as like the crunch time point, like there's no doubt the Knicks have been very good in the clutch and in the crunch time during this playoff run here, but they're not the boogeyman here. You still have to actually win the basketball game. And like, that's what I think, like, the mindset has almost shifted to it's great that you have confidence when you're going down the stretch, but it almost feels like it comes off as we just got to get it close and then it's a win. And that's not how basketball works there. You have to go out there and take it. And I think we sort of saw a little bit of that last night.
Well, let me just follow up with that, Sean, and Sam, I'll give you an opportunity. Like, I know that we're me personally, I'm highlighting the positives and the comeback, and it's unbelievable, but there's got to be someone to blame, right? Like, who's at fault for this collapse as far as the Knicks are concerned? Is this a Thibs deal as far as defensive mindset? Is this the players collectively? Is there a singular player that we could focus on? And I think it's fair to ask, and this is the most epic collapse in NBA playoff history. I've never seen anything like it. I'm reading these numbers right now. I can't believe. I watched the replay this morning. Sam, I went and worked out this morning thinking that the Knicks won game one. I come home.
You didn't even check the score when you woke up?
They didn't even check the score. No. It was, dude, there was 13-point lead with 8 minutes to go. Like, there's no way they're losing that game. And they did, and then some. So who's to blame?
So, I mean, there's a few people to blame. Like
Jalen
you
Brunson
said. I'm not putting most of the blame on Brunson. He had 43 points. He wasn't as good as Haliburton down the stretch, and especially in overtime. I'm not putting the blame on Brunson. If you want to look at that last minute or two of the collapse, the blame to me goes to OG Anunoby. It just does. Like, he had two defensive collapses where you should have switched and gotten out, and he was so deep on these Aaron Nesmith screens, and he didn't switch and get out on those threes. And Aaron Nesmith drilled him. And it wasn't like Aaron Nesmith hadn't hit a shot all game. We're talking about a guy who's shooting 54% from three this playoffs, and a guy who's already red hot up until that point. So that's on OG Anunoby. It's on OG Anunoby not to make that to make the free throw to give the Knicks a 3-point lead with 7 seconds to go. It's on OG Anunoby not to bobble a pass from Jalen Brunson on 2-on-1 situation that would have resulted in an easy layup and probably would have been the ball game. This loss to me is on OG Anunoby, who he didn't have a great game by any stretch, but he was playing well defensively in the first half, but he was really just non-existent offensively. And he looked discombobulated, lost, disinterested at times. And then there was a period where Brunson went out when he picked up his 5th foul with 10 minutes to go. And OG Anunoby had 5 straight points. He started playing much better, was more engaged. And then in the final couple minutes, on both ends, he wasn't engaged at all. So from a player standpoint, I'm looking at OG Anunoby, why the collapse took place. From the macro standpoint, Thibs deserves some blame because let me read you some numbers about this Knicks starting group. This Knicks starting group has played more minutes together as a 5-man group than any other team by 10 miles. I mean, how much minutes this group has played together is ridiculous. They're minus 37 with their starters on the floor this postseason, and they were minus 16 last night.
You got their defensive rating in there?
It's really, really bad. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's
but
really, really bad.
167, Sam Ostrey.
And what does that mean as far as what's the scale on that, Sean?
You want to be low. You want to be low, and like a really good defensive rating would be like when Mitchell Robinson's on the floor this playoffs, the Knicks had a defensive rating of 101, I believe the number was when I was doing the research.
I believe overall team, the Thunder leading the NBA with 104 right now.
Yeah. So you obviously want to be low. The Knicks are awful defensively. So from my perspective of you're going to blame the coach, blame Thibs, it's because he's not playing Mitchell Robinson and Miles McBride enough. Like we know Mitchell Robinson had such a great impact on the game when he was on the floor. Defensively, offensive rebounding, creating extra possessions. He's just a menace. Like him grabbing an offensive rebound and kicking out to a shooter is one of the most efficient play types in basketball, it seems like. So I want to see Mitchell Robinson on the floor more. I want to see Deuce McBride on the floor more. You have to take more of a defensive approach because your offense will come. But you have to get stops against this Pacers team. And I don't think Thibs has done a good job adjusting and going away from that starting group. And that might mean putting Josh Hart on the bench for stretches, even Mikal Bridges on the bench for stretches, Karl-Anthony Towns. But you need to focus on defense the rest of the series.
Sean, are we not like focusing on the obvious here as you're going to point out who you blame as far as the Knicks collapse is concerned? That it might have been just the higher power of Jim Irsay blowing that ball into the. I still can't believe Haliburton made that shot. Why not go? Why not take that ball in for two? What was the thought process there? I missed everything from the standpoint of after the game. Did he talk about that? Was he not able to get to the rim because there was a defender in the lane?
I think part of it was probably Mitchell Robinson on him is one of the better rim protectors in the sport. Gotcha. But I think the thought process was, let's go for the win here. That we've hung around. I'm taking the three, and I'm ending this game.
That was some Curry stuff, bro.
Yeah, no, that was give him his flowers, man. He's done this. He keeps doing this. He did this against the Cavaliers. Like everyone wants to talk most overrated. He's not this guy. Go be better than him, and you can't. And Tyrese Haliburton just continues to do it, man. When you give him a chance, like 11 for 12. On game-tying or game-winning opportunities this season. That's absurd.
Yeah, that's like an absurd stat. Ridiculous.
But it's real.
One of the most ridiculous stats I've ever heard, honestly.
Yeah.
Like a good field goal percentage on game-winning shots is like 25 or 30.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's like Kobe's considered this incredibly clutch player.
Yeah,
Kobe is not that great in terms of his field goal percentage on clutch shots. That is an absurd stat.
Yeah. Very much so. So I do want to give him props for that. I also think you're being a little bit soft on Josh Hart overall for as far as the blame here. I didn't think Hart was good last night. I thought defensively he made a lot of the same mistakes you're kind of pointing out with OG. He left Andrew Nembhard on a wide open cut right under the basket on a very crucial part of this comeback here. I also think he let Naismith get free a ton. He shot the ball just 6 times last night. It, to me, did not feel like a good Josh Hart game whatsoever. His overall stat line, he did pull in 13 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal, 1 turnover, 8 points there. I thought he was underwhelming. Is your adjustment, you're trying to play Miles McBride and Jalen Brunson together is sort of the pitch that you have?
Yeah, but honestly, it's more about Mitchell Robinson than Miles McBride. Like I'd put Mitchell Robinson in for, and I thought Hart was like, that's what Hart is. And I thought when he got backdoor cut, obviously you want to see ball, man. That's basketball 101. But I think he didn't trust Jalen Brunson so much defensively. And he was just zeroed in on that play because he was going to have to come over to help and just got caught looking back door. But to answer your question, it's really more about Mitchell Robinson playing instead of Josh Hart probably, or instead of Mikal Bridges for certain stretches if Mikal is struggling offensively, because that's when your defense can go to a whole nother level. And Miles McBride, his defensive rating is really good too, but a lot of that's because he's playing on the floor with Mitchell Robinson, because those guys are both playing reserve minutes together. So it's really more to me, Mitchell Robinson should be playing more. And if that's sacrificing Josh Hart minutes, then so be it.
Yeah, I don't know. 1 3-point attempt for Mr. 6 first-round picks last night. Mikal Bridges there. The Mitchell Robinson conversation, where I think Tom Thibodeau, and 0 for 1 on that attempt, I might add. The Mitchell Robinson, where I think Tom Thibodeau sits on he's been pretty unwilling to play Robinson major minutes all year, really, since he came back from injury. But I think for this specific matchup, like Miles Turner is probably one of the top 3 floor spacing big men in the NBA. And I think his fear is like, you're essentially playing, the Pacers are going to run 5-out offense with Mitchell as a guy who, to his credit, I thought he held up fairly well on the perimeter last night. But I think that's probably the weakness they're attempting not to make available. You think that's fair?
Yeah, but to start that game, their pick and pop coverage was to show and get back. And Miles Turner started like, what do you have, like three or four straight shots that he made to start the game. So it wasn't very good with Cat on the floor either. And I really trust Mitchell Robinson as a perimeter defender more than I would Cat. And you put those two guys together, that's a really big front court. But even if you want to put Mitchell Robinson over Cat for longer stretches to sacrifice some offense for defense and leave Josh Hart in there, I'm fine with that too. But Mitchell Robinson he needs to be playing more. And hopefully he can conditioning wise, but he needs to be playing more than 20 minutes a game.
Absolutely insane, boys. And there's so much to discuss. We just went 35 minutes on one game one, and that's understood.
Can we just say that was one of the most incredible basketball games I've ever seen?
I would love to say it. I didn't watch it.
Well, you did this morning. It counts. It counts.
Yeah, I know. I watched 3 quarters. They were up by 3 heading into the fourth quarter. They extended the lead to double digits. I'm like, all right, game one goes to the Knicks. Oh, well. Had the Pacers. I can't even count it as a victory because I didn't watch it, but I woke up to it. Whatever. It is what it is. We're rolling on. I'm now 1-1 as far as conference finals are concerned. We are going to get over to game 2 as the west side of things, but just still staying with the Pacers and Knicks because we got to focus on this. This is just incredible. Last night, from the total perspective, boys, I think 220.5 was the number. Of course, it goes way over. How about at halftime, live line, 240 it was.
Yeah.
So if you were one of these folks that were on the over pregame, tip goes up, halftime, continuing to fire, 240. It goes to overtime. Again, I get it. OT is OT. A lot of points were scored in overtime as well, too. You end with 273, I think the number was. What is the number you're comfortable at for game 2? And now we get into this space where as the series goes on, albeit game 2, you start to see a little bit more tired legs. You start to see adjustments. You start to see teams figuring each other out. You start to see coaches come up with different game plans. So now is it enough of a swing one way at 227 that maybe we take the under, or do we take the lesson from game 1? And essentially, I don't think you can make this number high enough. Sean, I'll start with you on that.
Yeah, see where the number exactly comes in at, but I do think we see a little bit of swing back in the second game. That I think the Knicks specifically will be very focused on playing at their tempo, slowing down the pace, and not trying to run with
227. Just so you know,
227. Yeah, I would prefer the under of that number. That I still think like they're gonna comfortable. This isn't going to be like the Timberwolves Thunder that I think we legitimately will get games that end like 90-87 in this series. But I do think that like with the Knicks and Pacers, the Knicks are not. I think they should learn their lesson that we can't run with these guys. They got too many bodies, too many young legs, and let's do what we do best, which is playing in the half court, running pick and pop with Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, allowing Brunson to isolate and all those kind of things. So I think the tempo changed a little bit in game 2, and I do like the under there.
Sam, your thoughts on the total? Anything for you?
Yeah, I agree. Just because I think the Knicks are going to play more defensive-oriented lineups, which is what we've been talking about, where it's like you got to get stops. Like Thibs has been really reluctant to go away from that starting group for long stretches, but you have to get stops against this Pacers team, and you still will have the offensive firepower to score enough. He's going to play more. I hope he finally makes that adjustment. That he's going to play more defensive oriented lineups, and I think you're going to see a lower scoring game because of that.
He's very open-minded and creative coach, so good track record.
He's definitely not. But I will say, in the last series, he completely shifted his defensive coverage, and they switched everything against the Celtics, which is so anti-Thibs-like because they were never switching anything all year. So he has been willing to adjust at times, just not with his starting lineup.
2 quick ones from the television. I got the monitors up. Charles Barkley said they looked exhausted in game 1 from the Knicks perspective. Do we agree to that? Because I didn't see it through 3 quarters.
I thought that was fair. I mean, exhausted is probably strong, but I would say the Pacers had notably more energy, particularly down the stretch there. Like, I mean, we'll see how much gas there is in the tank for this Knicks team. This is always kind of the concern for the Tom Thibodeau-led team. So they had 3 guys in the top 10 in the NBA in total minutes this year. That's a lot of miles on guys' legs. So they did look a bit tired for me. I did not think they looked fresh whatsoever down the stretch. And against a Pacers team that is going to continually rotate guys, it's going to stand out a little bit. So I do think that's fair.
I think
Sam,
exhaustion
to you, because I was going to say that's got to be factored in when we talk about it. You're right. I said they look good through 3 quarters. Yeah, that's right. But it's the fourth quarter. It's clutch time. It's that stretch where the money is made, and I guess they look tired.
I think they looked tired in overtime. Like exhaustion definitely kicked in overtime, which is fair to say, especially for Brunson, I thought, and OG Anunoby. Those guys look more tired than anybody. But I will say, I think part of that is mental exhaustion, more than it might be physical exhaustion, because they're probably thinking that overtime, how in the world are we in overtime right now? Like, how did that shot go in? How do we just blow a lead where we're up 14 with a little over 2 minutes to go? So I think part of that is the mental fatigue where they just kind of looked out of it in the overtime period and they couldn't overcome that. So I'm not really that worried about the physical exhaustion, but it definitely showed up.
40 straight minutes on this game alone. Unbelievable. And I'm not done. Sam, back to you. Tyrese Halliburton, not a superstar. That's fair, right? But at the end of the day, he was on the USA Olympic team. I know he didn't play. Like, how should we view Tyrese Halliburton, and how much has it changed in the last 2 to 3 weeks?
It's my views of him has definitely changed in the last 2-3 weeks, no doubt. I was on the he's overrated train, and I still don't think he's a top 12 to 15 player in the NBA. Like, he wasn't even all NBA guy this year. And he played better the last 2 or 3 months of the season, but those haven't come out yet. He could end up being.
He might. 13. I think he probably is.
He could end up being on 13, but we'll see when those come out. To me, he wasn't on my ballot. If I had
him or Harden is really the debate there.
Yeah, it's true. And I had Harden. So to me, he's not an all NBA guy this season. And it was kind of like he came and he's really struggled last season. Like this playoffs, he's playing so much better than he did last playoffs. I know the Pacers had a great run to the conference finals last year too, but Tyrese Halliburton's been on a whole nother level this playoffs. So as a scorer, as a shooter, just everything he does as a creator to get that offense in rhythm, it's been so impressive. But when you talk about a superstar, like you're really talking about a 10 to 15 best player, and it's like,
yeah,
can this guy be the best player on a championship team? And to me, the answer's always been no. I'm not necessarily going to change it after the season, but if they somehow, and the Thunder are winning, we'll get to that in a second. It's not this is a race for second for the Eastern Conference Finals. But if the Pacers somehow win the NBA Finals, Tyrese Halliburton will be the worst player on a championship team since probably the Pistons in 2003. It's been that long. And that's not even disrespect. That just means, like, to win an NBA championship, you have to have a top 5 to 7 guy in the entire NBA. You just do. That's the only way you can win a championship, almost under all circumstances. And if Pacers somehow get that done, they would have done it with not even a top 12 guy.
That's fair. That's fair. Sean, anything you want to add on that? Again, yeah. Superstar. I would just say superstar is like your point. To me, that's rare. And I'm not going to sit here and say Halliburton's a superstar. But like this dude's balling out right now. And I think everything we say about Brunson, I think we need to be saying about Halliburton as well.
Yeah, and I'm game with that take there. I will, as much as I'm riding for Halliburton here, I'm not going to throw him in the superstar category. And even like as well as he's played, which you can't ask for much more than him. I mean, 31-11 last night, and just like at the epicenter of everything. By the way, I think he's hung defensively a lot better than he's gotten credit or I expected from him throughout this playoff run here. So got to give him a little bit of props there. So I still think he probably never quite cracks that upper echelon of like think about how much slack Jason Tatum has gotten.
Oh God. Yeah.
Like him not being the clear-cut best player on a team that won the championship. Like Jason Tatum is a far better all-around basketball player than Tyrese Halliburton, and I think he catches a little bit of slack for that. So I don't think he's quite a superstar, but he is a damn good basketball player, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of hot air around all those conversations. It's just like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Look at what Jaylen Brown had to deal with, and I get it, came up small, but whatever. It's just people continue to say what they want, but I think we're all on the same page with that one. Let's see where we're at right now. Is this too much of an overreaction? Again, I know where I'm going with these questions and answers. I know what I'm going to get, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Sam Ostry, I'll start with you. Too much of an overreaction. Before game one, the Knicks were minus 155 to win the series. Pacers were plus 130. Now, after the game one result, I get it. Indiana wins. The Knicks are plus 145 and the Pacers are minus 175, and that continues to move in their favor. Is that too much of a overreaction in your mind?
I think so, but I'm not surprised by it because you're going to see those swings, those odd swings after every game pretty much.
True.
Because that's just how it's going to go in a series that was pretty much a toss-up. I mean, it's close, not quite a pick-em, but it's close to a toss-up as you can get.
Yeah, I didn't get that from you at all leading into that.
No, you're right. I'm not saying from me. I'm saying from odds.
I think negative chance was the word.
Let's clear some things up. clear some things up.
Let
First
me look
off,
at my text. I'm pretty
I'm not
sure he
saying,
had them
I'm not
in the
saying
NBA
from
Finals.
me it was a toss up. I'm saying from the odds perspective, it was a toss up. Number two, yeah, I put negative chance in the group chat.
Yeah.
When I actually did my full breakdown of it, I had this Knicks in 7. So I'm not, it's not like I was calling for a Knicks sweep or a gentleman's sweep here. Like, I thought this was going to be a really tough competitive series, and this was a different style. The Knicks haven't really seen this playoffs just yet. So I still think the Knicks are winning them in the series. Don't get me wrong. But this is like, sure, it's a successful season for the Knicks if they win, but you can't lose to the Pacers again. You just can't. Like, you really, after how last season went, when you had injuries, and you probably should have won that series if you didn't have those injuries hit, and then this whole season where it's like you have a blessing where you Cavs are out of it, a really bad Eastern Conference, Sixers aren't a factor, you beat Boston, Tatum goes down in game 5, you have an opportunity, or game 4, I guess it was, you have an opportunity to really make a finals run with an open path in the East. And now you see the Pacers again, a team that beat you last year. Halliburton got that final Team USA spot over Brunson last summer on the Olympics, which was ridiculous, but it's a whole nother conversation. It's just, you Knicks can't lose this. Like, it's going to be a successful season because it's first conference finals in 25 years, but you have a prime opportunity. You can't lose this series. And I don't think the Knicks will. I think they still have that mental resolve to pull it out in 7.
I got to come back at that. We'll save that one. Let's put a pen in that one, because I don't know if you could look at the season as a successful season if they don't get, like, they're here. This is the golden opportunity. I get it. You got that next step. Great. Like, and I'm speaking from the Sixers perspective, like, okay, like, even if the Sixers eventually got to an Eastern Conference Finals, I don't know if I'm looking at that like that's a successful season. And I'm not trying to argue with you right now, because who the hell knows what's going to happen over these next few games. But man, you went out there and you traded all those picks, and you got Karl-Anthony Towns, and you got this team rolling, and you are 1 of 4 left. And if you come up short and don't advance with home court advantage to the NBA Finals, man, that's going to be a tough one to sell.
I just say I agree only because it's the Pacers again, and you just lost to the Pacers last year, and that's inexcusable. But under normal circumstances, like, this Knicks team is staying together for the foreseeable future, and you can add some more depth.
New coach
around the margins.
Coach.
No, Thibs isn't going at. You think now Thibs is going to get
really?
fired? You think now he's going? I didn't think he was going to get fired if they lost round 1. He's definitely not getting fired now.
They're claiming that this is the reason why they're tired legs. They're exhausted. This is Thibs. This is his monster.
Okay, but he could argue, I don't have the bench players to even play right now.
I'm with you.
I don't have depth.
I'm not firing him at all. I'm with you. But we've seen coaches that have
it's a different organization. It's a different relationships, different organizations. Brunson's father is on staff. Brunson loves Thibs. Thibs and Leon Rose have a great relationship. It's not happening.
Okay. All right. I don't think it should happen. But you know how the NBA is. You're hired to be fired.
Well, how about Mike Malone doing ESPN now, and JB Bickerstaff
and calling SGA the MVP?
Yeah. If people made a big deal about that, I was like, all right, should he? He's no longer his guy. Did Joker get him fired? Was he fired?
That's how I took that. I took that as there's some hard feelings there, at least. You don't have to say that. You definitely don't have to say that if you're Michael Malone.
There's definitely hard feelings there. And I would imagine, you're not moving the head coach unless Joker signs off on it. And I'm sure he was pretty much well aware of the conversations that were being had over the past few weeks, months, whatever it was. And he got canned. But yeah, he's out there. He's really short. He was really short on television.
He also so I got to do a Michael Malone press conference when the Nuggets were in Philadelphia here. It blew my mind how buttoned up and clean he looked for TV. Like, my impression of him as head coach Michael Malone, the dude was a gangster, man. Like, he was coming in sweatpants rolled up to his knees, cursing off the cuff and doing all this. I'm just last night watching that, I'm just that is a different guy than the dude that I had a chance to interview right there.
TV changes people.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Sean, to you, your thoughts on the series? Too much of a swing, or again, is this the Pacers? They're going to win.
Yeah, I mean, the math has to math, Sean Brace. That they're now down to 3 more wins than they are advancing here. So they rightfully are the favorites. That they walked into Madison Square Garden and took game 1. And as far as kind of the conversation of whether this season should be viewed as a success, I mean, the bottom line is the Knicks are in the conference finals, and that's far above myself, where I think a lot of people had a peg they're expected to get to here. But context certainly matters, and how the rest of the series unfolds, I think, does decide how you can view this. if the Knicks do show effort to fight back, and even if they do lose in a 7-game series, I think you can rest on that a little bit depending on how things play out. If the Pacers walk in and win game 2, I think the series is over right then tomorrow night if that's how things go down. So how these next handful of games or the remainder of the series kind of dictates in my head whether or not this is a success or not from the Knicks perspective, but they are in the conference finals and they do deserve their flowers for that.
Totally agree with you on that one. All right. Anything else we want to get into? First of all, game 2, 5.5 point spread, 227. Of course, that's up a point from the spread perspective for the Knicks. I think it went off at 3.5, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we could say 2.5, whatever it may be there. And then 227, that's up 7 points from 220.5. Again, it's tough to sit here. Like, the Knicks have to have that game. It's a must win for the Knicks.
Absolutely. The series is over if they lose that game. I do really.
I don't agree with that.
Oof.
Shocker.
I just think it's you see it more than ever of teams coming back from 2-0. And look, the Pacers did to the Knicks last year, and yes, obviously OG got hurt, and that contributed to it. But the Pacers were down 2-0, and they came back. And I've talked about this forever now of how home court advantage means nothing to me. Like playing home court, playing on the road means nothing. Yeah, obviously the Pacers should be substantial favorites, and I'm not gonna. It'll be a shock. It'll be a shocker if the Knicks win, but I don't think it's over if it's 2-0. Like you saw it even with the Raptors a few years ago when the Raptors were down 2-0 to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they come back. Teams come back from down 2-0, especially teams that are like evenly. If you want to say one team's better than the other, these two teams are evenly matched. And like this series, any game could swing any which way based on a few plays. So they could come back from 2-0.
All right, let's get on over to the west side of things. Let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're 7.5 point favorites. 216.5 is our total in this one. I'm looking for a winner. I need a winner tonight, boys. Give me a winner. Where am I going with this game? Sean, I'll start with you.
So I like the under if we're just talking about a direct play there, that I do think like the Thunder kind of exploded in a way defensively that I like. That's probably the biggest selling point of this series, is that the Thunder defense is the best unit out of the 4 between these 4 teams. And Minnesota has a very good defense as well. So I do think this turns into a bit of a rock fight tonight, that they were able to get going in a way that I don't expect. That full number is sitting at 216.5. I do love that to stay under there. I do think Minnesota puts up a better battle than was the case in game 1. 7.5 is the number. It's plus 235 on the money line. I'm tempted by that, to be perfectly honest. Anthony Edwards looked kind of disinterested in that game, and he gets a pass a lot more than he probably should as a guy who's thrown in the conversations that he is. I do think he was bothered by that ankle injury that he seems to be fighting through and rolled. He's kind of rolled it for like several weeks now. It's just kind of re-injuring it. They're not making a big deal about it, but I need to see more. 13 shots is not good enough from him. I kind of think Minnesota rolled over in a way that they just, like, I didn't expect from them, and I think they show more tonight. So I like the plus 7.5. I'm tempted by the money line. I do think the game goes under.
Yeah, Sam, I guess the key would be you just gotta. It's a lot like the Warriors from previous seasons, where you knew that the Warriors were going to have a monster third quarter, and that seems to be what Oklahoma City is able to do right out halftime. But I do want to shine the light on that defensive play, man. They play ball on that side, and they run deep. Of course, they got some length. I thought that game 1 was there. It was on a platter for Minnesota, and that was disappointing. Like, if there was a moment, a game to get, it's that one, with everything that OKC had to do going up against, in that previous series, so on and so forth. And then you get that game and then that result. And I'm like,
and
I
Minnesota
don't know.
Started strong too. Like, they came out of the gates hot.
Minnesota looked smooth in that first quarter. They were popping. I think they were up 10-5. Again, it's the first quarter. No one's going to, cash a ticket at that point in time. But I'm like, all right, Minnesota's here. And then all of a sudden, third quarter came. Defense showed. And, of course, OKC, the avalanche that they just did on the offensive side of the ball, and Minnesota couldn't stop them. Tonight, I would love to sit here and say that I like Minnesota. I don't. I'm comfortable giving the 7.5. Give me OKC. Am I wrong on this one, Sam?
I'm on OKC as well. I don't think Minnesota has much of a chance in this series, and I think the Thunder go up 2-0 pretty easily. And you talk about the Warriors, that third quarter avalanche that you see from them, but that was offensively what you used to see from those Warriors.
True.
This third quarter avalanche is defensively for the Thunder. And they were like that against the Nuggets too. You saw in that game 7 how they forced turnovers. They were number 1 in the league all season at forcing turnovers, and they never turn the ball over themselves. So when you value possessions at that high of a rate, you're going to have success. The Thunder held the Wolves to 29% 3-point shooting and 34% shooting from the field, and forced them into 17 turnovers. That's just a remarkable display defensively. So even Shea, who struggled with efficiency, I mean, he got his points up, but he really struggled with his efficiency throughout that game. And I thought the Wolves had a good defensive plan. This Wolves team just can't score. Like they simply just can't score, and they couldn't score in the half court, even against the Lakers, going back to that first series. They won in 5 games, but they struggled with their half court offense. They struggled with their half court offense against the Warriors. And now you're playing not just the best defense this season. Like when it's all said and done, this is going to be, assuming the Thunder win, this is going to be one of the best defenses in NBA history. Yeah. That's how great this defense is, where they've so many guys. Every guy that plays just comes in and contributes and can guard so many different positions, and they really just move on a string. So I've been so impressed with this defense. And when you have a Wolves offense that's struggling to score in the half court anyway, I don't see a way that they're going to score enough, and the Thunder have a good enough offense where they're going to win pretty handily tonight.
Yeah, Mark Henry Jr. Go ahead, Sean.
Outscored him 70-40 in the second half of that game.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, Mark Henry Jr. pointed out something when I recorded with him on Monday about historical as far as how good OKC is. I think it was point differential, if I'm not mistaken, forgetting off the top of my head. But there are some stats that are in favor of OKC this season that they were able to put together that would separate them from some of the teams of yesteryear. But you got to win it all. We know that. Starts and ends there. Don't care what you do in the regular season. It's a whole different season at this point in time. But OKC, man, I just can't bet against them in this game tonight. So give me, I'll give the 7.5, whatever it is. Sam, your one winner tonight though is what?
Yeah, it's 7.5. That's the winner. And I lean the under. I don't know if I'm going to bet it necessarily, but I'm definitely going to be on the 7.5. I think OKC is just too good. Like we talked about, they're too good defensively, and the Wolves won't have a chance to score.
Well, insane NBA playoffs from start until where we're at right now. A great NBA season. We've been covering it all with the great minds here, Sam Ostry and Sean Bernard. This has been a fun daily ticket. Keep it locked right here to The Gambler. We're going to get back tomorrow, I would imagine, in some capacity. These guys have been rolling live on Mondays as well, picks and roll. So make sure you're checking out everything podcasted at foxphlgambler.com. That's at foxphlgambler.com. Couple housekeeping items real fast, if I may. First of all, coming up next, Beef at Night, myself, Ryan Beef Coyle. We talked about college football last night, boys. It's Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if you guys know this.
Official start of summer. I know.
It's the official start of summer, which I thought started next weekend, but regardless. And college football is right around the corner. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. And the NFL right around the corner. And, of course, we had some pretty big topics in the NFL world on our timelines yesterday. So
push is alive.
Yeah, push on, baby. Push on. So Beef and I are coming up next with Beef at Night. And then at 5 o'clock, you are going to get Swinging and Ding It, where they check in with Moose live. I don't even know where the hell he is. He's at Punta Cana.
Dominican Republic.
We
got a live putt from the green down there.
Live putt from the green on the podcast. Yeah. We're gonna find out if he makes it or misses it. We have to put money on that right now. Moose, how far of a putt was it, Sean?
It was right like off the edge of the green, so it was not like a layup putt by any means.
All right. I was still, even if it was a 5-footer, I was going to say he missed it, but that's all right. It's Moose. He's down there vacay, enjoying himself. So that's coming up at 5 o'clock. And again, we've had some great coverage on all of Philadelphia sports, including the Philadelphia Union. X's in the U. That's a brand new episode that we rolled out yesterday. Episode 37 from the boys, and the Philadelphia Union are on top of the Eastern Conference standings right now. So check that out for all you Union fans. Last but not least, I do want to point this out with our friends over at Gerhardt's, an unbelievable Memorial Day sale. But let's just start off and don't snip this. I'm not trying to go full Keith Pompey here. Memorial Day is about remembering and pausing and honoring the brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice. It starts and ends there, right? No ifs, ands, buts about it. However, this weekend, of course, Memorial Day, yeah, they got some great sales going on. So if you do choose to shop, please check out our friends over at Gerhardt's Appliances. Proud supporters of our community, always front and center when it matters the most. We're talking over 80 plus years serving the fine folks of the Philadelphia area. Gerhardt's Appliances for everything home, from kitchens to outdoor grilling, and proudly serving Philadelphia community for over 85 years. Once again, a great weekend to do exactly that about Memorial Day, remembering, pausing, reflecting, all that. But if you do want to get out and about and you need something from your home, I just planted a bunch of flowers in my backyard, starting to really, hopefully we get some sunshine. I could actually enjoy it. But you know where to shop. Shop at Gerhardt's. Check them out at gerhardtsappliance.com. Sam Ostry from The Score. Great job as always, Sam. What do you got cooking up over there at The Score?
A lot of basketball stuff, a lot of reacting to all these series. The previews have been out, but reacting to this series going about, I have a story going about the collapse last night going up pretty soon here. So keep it locked.
All right. And Sean Bernard, I know you were working on a Jalen Hurts column over at DraftKings and whether or not the tush push of coming back, he should be one of our top fantasy football options at the quarterback position, tongue in cheek, I know.
Yes, and absolutely should still be the case with or without the tush push there, that QB sneaks are not being outlawed, but nonetheless, we don't got to worry about that whatsoever. So have that. We'll have some player props and a couple other directions for tomorrow night's game. That'll be popping out over on DK Network. Also got a ton of stuff brewing on both Sixers and Phillies Digest on the YouTube channels there, so make sure to tap in for that.
Damn right. Subscribe and tell a friend what we're all doing here. Gambler Gang represent. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow. Good luck on those plays. Go Oklahoma City. Peace.
Pacers.